The most important promotion you will ever earn is the one no one can give you. It begins the moment you stop waiting to be chosen and start choosing your own growth. I wrote this book and I really hope it resonates with other people. But my biggest thing is to help people to stop chasing validation and start choosing their intentional growth.
Hello, and welcome aboard Project Candor. Today, we welcome Jeanne Reaves. Jeanne A. Reaves, PhD, is a corporate executive and the author of The Real Promotion, a book written for professionals who are ready to stop waiting for permission and start defining success for themselves. After years of chasing credentials, titles, and recognition, Jeanne came to an uncomfortable realization. The issue isn't how hard he was working, it was who he had allowed to define progress for him. His work centers on one powerful idea: the most important promotion you'll ever receive is the one you choose for yourself. Hi, John. Welcome aboard our little ship, Project Candor.
well, Lo, and you know what? Because of you reading my bio and general information, I don't think I need to say anything else. That said it all.
You did all that, and I really liked what you stand for. I'd like to be able to I gave myself promotion. Actually, I didn't tell you this earlier, but I've become an admiral. Did you know I promoted myself?
All right.
I'm
love
the
it.
admiral
I
of the
love it.
unexpected. I love it too. I gave it to myself.
I
Of course, I'm a
love it.
pirate at heart, so hey, we can do whatever we want.
Yeah, I've always been a giant believer of it, especially in the last several years. You know, you need to really stop waiting for people to advance your cause. Look in the mirror, come up with a plan, and advance your own.
I love that. Yes, I agree. Let's do it. What else can we conquer?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, so the way the show, we're going to start off with some interview questions for you before we play our two truths and a lie. So are you ready to get started?
I am so ready. I hope you're ready too.
Yes, I am. We want to find out a lot about you, and I'm ready to ask.
Nice.
Okay. So you describe spending years doing everything right, building the resume, staying late, checking every box, and still feeling stuck. When did you realize something deeper needed to change?
Well, I don't think it was necessarily a specific day and time. I think it was probably a period of time. And I would say what happened was back in probably the late early 2000s, I left I left a job that I really loved, but it was burning me out. And I thought it was time to sort of switch the curve. You know, I had the title, had the salary, had a whole lot of different things. But for me, I just was at a point in my life where I said, this can't be all to life, working a job so that you can pay a mortgage and have a title, have an office. And I just came to the realization I wanted so much more. But I think the other thing is I've come up with a number of work colleagues over the sort of decades, and a bunch of them are no longer with us because they either died or have significant impediments with their health because they were so busy chasing titles and not chasing their health like I was. So I've always believed that health should always be your literally number one first promotion. And at least for me, while I was sort of in the chase, I always made sure I was taking care of my physical and my mental health, and my peers were not. And unfortunately, they're no longer with us today. And I'm sure some of them would have said, oh my God, why didn't I come to that realization too, to just stop and look in the mirror and make some changes?
Yeah, that's profound because it's like when you walk away from what you did, I mean, did you have an umbrella? Did you just decide I can't take it anymore? And what was that old movie? I'm mad as hell and I can't take it anymore.
Well, it wasn't exactly like that. It was, again, because it was a wonderful job and the environment was, pretty good as well. But what I was doing, it was just not really, it wasn't where I wanted to see myself sign off for the rest of my professional career. And some people will spend 20, 30, and 40 years in a row and then realize one day, oh my God, why did I spend so much time at a job? And
Yeah.
I did not want that to be me. And I will tell you, when I made the pronouncement when I came home, my wife said, "You're doing what?" Yes, I mean, we had a little bit of money saved and all that good stuff. But for me, it was more about time to look at my career differently, time to stop feeling like the world's going to come to an end if I miss a day at work, or feeling like my worth was being determined by others. And that's probably the big thing that a lot of us do when we are in these corporate roles. We're so busy trying to appease everybody, we forget about ourselves.
Absolutely. Absolutely true. That you're always meeting a mark, right? You have your evaluation, and this year you're supposed to meet this mark, and then
That's right.
you work to get it, and then the next year it's a little bit higher. And it was impossible to make the first time.
And it's interesting. I was just talking to a friend a few hours ago, and he had mentioned that he is between jobs. And I asked him, well, how are you feeling? How's things going? And he said, believe it or not, I'm okay. He said, I just am tired of chasing titles. And I said to him, do you know the book I just recently wrote? It's like, what? So there are a lot of us that are out there that are saying enough is enough. And don't get me wrong, there are a number of wonderful companies where people live to go to work and they're doing amazing work and so forth. But then there are a number of other companies out there, not so much. And
Yes,
when
exactly.
I think about like I think one of the things that happened to me many years ago, I've been laid off 3 times in my professional career, and over a 30 plus year career, well, you potentially are going to experience that. And it was really my third layoff that probably was the most resonating with me, because I was so ready. You're probably saying, what? Who's ready to get laid off? Well, when I think about the first few times, like the first time was very early in my career. I knew it was going to happen. I don't even really count that one because I got, severance. I started a new job the following week. So I really don't include that.
Yeah.
The second time,
That
on the
was
other
lucky
hand,
though.
yeah, exactly. The second one, on the other hand, was a little bit more interesting, where I was in a different state. I was in a job that I really loved, but it was one of those things where the company wanted to go in a different direction, including purchasing another company. And and I found myself saying, well, now what? Do I, flip the script and do something different? So I ultimately moved and returned back to a place where I was most comfortable for, sort of regroup, and then jumped right back in and got another opportunity. The third time was just last year. And out of all of the times that it transpired, the last time was probably bittersweet to me, because I knew it was coming because of the positioning of the company.
Hmm.
I also had mentally started preparing. It's one thing to be prepared where, you have things in the bank and so forth, but that mental piece, I will tell you, is far more crippling and difficult to manage through if you're not ready for it. But I was.
Right.
And I, took that time and said, you know what? I want to do something a little bit different. I don't want to just jump into another opportunity. I want to do a job that I get excited of waking up. That's not only about the salary, but it's about, what you're doing and the people that you're impacting. And I was so fortunate to find an opportunity like that fairly quickly. So for me, I would just say that when you decide that you're not going to chase titles, that you're going to solely focus on the work and your journey and how you respond to people and how you show up when you are at work, you do start to think of things differently. So if a layoff happens, it's just not that big of a deal. Even though a lot of us will say, well, I like to pay my mortgage on time and I like to be able to provide for my family. Don't get me wrong, that's all important and critical. But
Definitely.
you can't support and provide for folk if you're sick or dead, right? So,
That's very true too.
and I think a lot of people forget about that. They get so caught up in this maze, they're not really thinking through who they are. And one of the things that I always wanted to make sure that I wasn't losing myself in the process. In fact, one of my next projects that I plan to do in the future is really kind of talk about what happens to you when you're in the workplace, and most importantly, what becomes of you when you leave. So that's
Right.
another day
Well,
and another time. But for this current title, it really is about the professional, whether you are brand new in your career, middle, or even on the decline to retirement. Really taking that, look in the mirror, doing some reflecting, and really kind of determining, are you where you want to be? And if you're waiting for your company to get you there, good luck with that.
yeah. Yeah, what is that thing they talk about when you're on your deathbed? Nobody ever goes back and says, "Boy, I missed that meeting. I wish I had gone."
I know.
I'm not thinking about that. So, what you're saying goes right into my next question. You've talked about shifting your orientation.
Hmm. Hmm.
So, what did you have to unlearn in order to redefine progress on your own terms?
Oh my goodness. I probably would say one of the biggest things is it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to have a misstep. It's
Mm,
okay not to have all of the answers. When you get out of the space that you have to be perfect, and that, when criticism, you're presented with criticism and you freak out and so forth, once you get past all of that, I think you'll be in a better headspace to move forward. And for me, again, when I learned that fulfillment isn't awarded by an organization, it's built
mhm.
internally through intentional growth, things really started to change for me.
Absolutely. I wish, more people knew that, because I see a lot of my friends still struggling where they are and they're not happy, and it's not getting them anywhere. And they can go from place to place, same industry, to try to boost up to get another level of job. But then they reach this thing where the level of job in that company is lower than the level of job in the other company. It's just
Right.
like, what are you doing?
And that's why you really have to, I guess, put away the company's navigator and create your own.
Oh, I
Chart
love
your
that.
own course.
Oh, that goes great with Project Candor. We're always charting our course here.
Right.
I love that. Yeah, you're right. You do have to chart your own course, because, I think I told you this before. My husband, being from Europe and Sweden,
Mhm,
he
mhm.
he taught me a big valuable lesson of invest in myself,
Oh,
and nobody should have to pay you to train for a skill. If you want the
yeah,
skill, go do it. Go buy the course, go take the course, go learn it on your own, but invest in yourself, because
yeah,
you have to, you are the one that achieves what you want to achieve. Nobody else is going to do it for you. And that just falls right into what you say. And
yeah.
that, maybe it's a European mindset that we don't have over here, but it's
Well,
a very strong.
I would say there probably is some truth to that, because a number of the Europeans I've had interaction with over the years in the workplace, their mindset is different. I mean, they do take 3 to 4 month vacations. They have no
True.
problem if you have a sick child, they're not looking over their shoulder saying, oh my God, I have to figure some stuff out. They just promptly leave, let people know that they're going to be gone for a moment, and then they come back and pick up where they left off. And you kind of wonder, well, why didn't we get those tenants in this in this country? Why aren't we replicating some of that? We would prefer to, have people on pins and needles. I mean, I can go on and on about stories where, one of my colleagues, let's see, his wife was expecting, and she called and said, I think my time is up. And he was in a big meeting saying, well, I'll get there when I get there. I'm thinking, what?
What?
Can you just go and take care of that and be present for your family? Because
Oh
here's the
my
thing,
goodness.
those moments you can't get back. You can get back this meeting. You can get back all of that stuff, but you can't get back being present for the birth of your child. I mean, what are we doing? But at the same time, if you are mentally at a point where you feel like everything's going to, crash if I'm not present, I got some news for you. If you once your number comes up and you're no longer with the company, guess what
Yeah.
happens? Somebody else get that number and stop running until that time is up. That's just kind of how it works.
Yeah, it was a hard lesson for me, years way at the beginning of my career to
Hmm.
learn that everybody's replaceable.
Oh,
Because I
oh,
put in this great system when I was in the Navy. You know,
mhm.
the Navy's kind of like, they're like regimented, do this,
Yes,
do this, do
yes,
this.
yes.
But where I was, they were just doing a lot of automation and stuff. So I created some systems around it. And then I talked to people. When I went to another duty station, I talked to people like, you still using that thing? Oh, no, we trashed that. It was awful. I was like,
Yeah,
I'm out of sight, out of mind. You just dumped my whole thing I was so proud of. But they were getting along. They didn't need me. So whatever.
yeah.
It's sad, but
It
true.
is. It is.
So let's talk about this idea of a promotion that no one else can give you. What changes internally before anything changes externally?
It really is in mindset. I think when you are going through your own transformation, if your mind is not right, there's not a whole lot you can do. And I'll give you a great example. I talk to people all the time that have lost their jobs or feel stuck in their jobs. And their mentality is, I'll either get another job or I just want to get something so I can, be able to resume my life. But they're not thinking about what comes next. And and my belief is before you can start looking for a job, before you can start switching to another job, you really got to get your mind right. You got to make sure that you are in a mind space to deal with all the twists and turns and so forth. One of the fun, and I call it an analogy, but it really is just I've watched particularly professional sports, whether it's football and basketball. And keep in mind, I don't know nothing about either sport, but I know a whole lot about their business practices. And one of the interesting things that I've noticed is that coaches, whether it is in December or right after the season has ended, a lot of them get fired. And you're thinking, what is going on? I mean, half of these coaches are being fired. And here's the thing 4 weeks, 5 weeks later, they are new jobs. And you wait a minute. How can
Yeah.
that be? And it's just the culture that they're in, and that's what they do. And I suspect that if somebody played on a basketball team and they were traded to 5 or 6 teams, that's not necessarily a picnic. And I like to equate all of that to what happens in the workspace, in the corporate workspace. We experience some of that too. The problem is that obviously we're not making millions of dollars like some of these other folk, but I think the mindset of these individuals is basically the same. They got fired on Monday, and Tuesday they said, I'm ready to jump into somebody else. I'm just going to start interviewing with other people. It's because they are at a mindset saying, I will just do what I can to leave the team that I was with better, hopefully. And if not, some other team will pick me up and I'll probably be able to, dive into their culture and hopefully things will work out. So I will always will just encourage people to really think through when they are, in a situation where they feel like they can't do anything else and the world is coming to an end. Take a moment and take a deep breath. Take that deep breath and then mentally start thinking through what are my possibilities? There are always possibilities. I always tell people, you know what? You have so much power. You just need to start taking it and investing in you. And part of that is having the mental capacity to believe that you can do anything you want so long
Mhm.
as you sit down and write a plan.
Absolutely. And then you're not saying that everybody should stop and be an entrepreneur
Not
and
at
just
all. Not at
be
all.
yeah, do something on their own. You're just saying find the right thing.
And here's the thing. Even if you're in one of those situations where you want to be a corporate citizen for the rest of your life, there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. but just know that there are limitations. That corporate
Mhm.
that corporate organization is not necessarily going to be as vested in yourselves than you need to be. And one of my favorite stories, not one of my favorite stories, is when people talk about learning. When a company don't send them to a training conference, or if they don't want to pay for a course and so forth, people get upset. Well, a lot of us out here will say, well, why can't you just pay for it yourself, get the certification or whatever it is you're trying to get from that, and build on whatever you already have?
Yes.
That's a piece that I also would like to provide advice to folk, especially when you feel like you're stuck or you are in the middle of jobs and so forth. Learning is probably one of the biggest things you can do for yourself, whether it is taking a course, picking up a book, all the above. Learning can free you. It could also
Mhm.
liberate you to really explore other avenues that you probably didn't think was possible. And when I also think about when I was laid off from my last job, that's exactly what I did. In the midst of thinking about what I wanted my next steps to be, I took a class, and I mean,
Yeah.
people were like, "What?" But that's a lot of that is simply because I love to learn. I don't necessarily need to go get a new degree or even a certification. But if you find, whether it's a new book or some type of course that's fun, I'm always going to be ready to sign up for it. In fact, one of the things that I do, and you probably wonder how I have time to do this, I try to read a book every week of something.
Mm.
Most
Okay.
books are not very long, probably a few hundred pages, but I really believe that learning has to be your main promotion. If you really want to get ahead, if you really want to be excited about life and making strides and making a difference in other people's lives, you have to be a lifelong learner. And that can be in any space. I don't care what job you're doing. You could always do more by picking up a book or even YouTube's. I mean, if that's your thing, whatever your thing
Mhm.
is, be intentional about learning and improving yourself. That will make a difference. And you will feel better about your
Where
overall
you are.
outcome and your productivity.
Well, yeah, nowadays there's all these other learning labs online like Udemy. I don't even know if I'm saying it right. It's but they'll sell a course for like $30,
Mhm, mhm.
and it'll be a really good course that somebody's put together, and it'll teach you how to prepare for network installation or AI. What is AI? How do you use AI? All of these things. And what people don't realize is when they don't invest in themselves, is that when they go into a company, when the companies are talking about do they need to downsize, they are looking at skills
They
and people
are.
sitting there with
Yeah.
no skills and haven't, learned anything for the past 10 years sitting there, they're the ones that aren't of high value. And I'm not saying people aren't of high value, but that's where the corporations are focused on people that are getting those skills and maintaining them. And then, like you said, when you get those, then you feel better about yourself.
You do. And for me, when I think about all of the amazing opportunities to learn out there, it's pretty it's pretty astounding. I mean,
It
YouTube
is
in
definitely.
itself is an amazing tool. I just think about, early in my career where I had to run to the library or call a friend and so forth because of something I,
Hmm.
wanted to get some advice on and so forth. Well, you don't have to do that anymore. You can just get in front of the computer, and if I don't know, your AI friends or your internet doesn't necessarily have an answer, you can turn on YouTube and somebody has talked about it. And I love
Right.
that. And again, you kind of have to take all of these different vehicles and vet them, of course. But I think again, no one should ever be complaining about I don't have the money to learn because it's out here. And in a lot of instances, so long as you're not on some type of in a situation where you don't have access to things, it typically can be free.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, YouTube is a big thing for me. I don't really watch TV that much. Oh, well, what the heck? Yeah, I do watch it, but I have specific things that I watch, and so but YouTube is kinda like what I keep on a lot because I go looking for skills, in
Right.
sewing and
Right.
in music, like, how do you play that chord, and how do you
Right.
transition to this chord? Yeah, so that's I totally agree with what you're saying. You're spot on. Totally. Okay. So, a lot of driven people secretly measure themselves against titles and org charts. So, how do you separate identity from position? We talked around it a little bit. I think you have more insight.
I think when you again stop allowing people to validate you based on what your position is, or who and so forth, you're going to see a difference. And my case in point is, and it's just kind of funny, you know for years I thought I was doing everything right. I was working hard, I was earning all of these great intros, and still, I still felt stuck. I mean, it felt like I was always waiting to be noticed, waiting to be chosen. And that's when I realized, and that's when I, will really reemphasize here. I was tying my worth to someone else's decision. And that's typically, I think, the rut that a lot of folk get in. They're still waiting in line for their turn versus saying, I don't need to wait in line anymore. My turn can be a lot of different things now. It doesn't necessarily have to be the title. It doesn't have to be getting a promotion at my job. It could be, doing such things as volunteer work and getting fulfillment from that. It could be, raising your kids to be productive, citizens. It could be a whole lot of different things. It doesn't necessarily have to be validated solely in a work climate. And I think we all run into sort of that trap, thinking if we don't have a certain title that the world's going to come to an end and no one's going to look at us differently. And you do have those circles that are looking at you based on your title and your position. But most of
Absolutely.
us could care less. Most of us are
Well,
more interested in fact, when I go to dinner parties, the last thing I want to talk about is work. I want to talk about things, what matters to you? Where have you traveled to? What are you interested in? None of this. Um, I was working on an Excel spreadsheet, or I was doing my PowerPoint. I could care less about that. I don't want to hear about that in a works in a cocktail or dinner setting. Now there are people that will say, especially if you're networking, you have to be able to do that. It just depends. But I think at the end of the day, when you start to focus on, I call it the things that really matter, especially when it comes to work, I think you will feel much better when you go into
mhm.
a climate, and let's just say it's really volatile. When you're thinking about so many of the other things that you give and that you provide value to, the work stuff doesn't become that big of a deal. And again, I'm the last person to tell someone, you just go quit your job and figure it out. Absolutely not. What I'm saying is, I think you need to stop expecting all of this crazy stuff to happen to you at work and start thinking about the internal building, which will inform what you do at work. And you will be a better corporate citizen, and you will be able to show up better at work. And most importantly, others will see your light and want to shine like you.
Oh, that's absolutely great advice. It kind of goes into high pressure environments. We've talked about this before, but people that are trying to climb and get those titles, and you're so funny when you say nobody wants to sit around and talk about Excel spreadsheets. I totally get that. But there is a lot of cutthroat competition. And so, how do you stay competitive and grow professionally without falling into the trap? Because
Right.
I've seen people climb on the
Mhm.
shoulders of other people and take credit for things that other people have done just to get a promotion. And you're just looking at them like, you can't really have done that. Did you really do that?
Yeah, and it is a lot of that out there. In fact, I've had a number of jobs where people, went out of their way to, undercut you or be derogatory, or worse, lie and cheat. In fact, I'll have to tell you a funny quick story.
Okay.
I was listening to the radio station, I guess it was a week ago, and one of the hosts of one of the more popular reality shows was on the radio. And for me, it was a wonderful interview. In fact, they were just doing a really good job of bouncing off ideas off of one another, until the host of the reality show stated that his show mirrors what really happens in the workplace, where you have to basically lie, lie, cheat, and be deceiving.
What is that show? Survivor?
Well, I don't want to be sued, and I don't want to say, but let's just
Oh, but
say, yeah. So,
something like
so
that.
I was stunned, not because there wasn't some validity to what he said, but I kind of took a step back and said, do you really have to lie, cheat, and steal in the workplace? Yes, you probably have to do that on a reality show because they're trying to get ratings and they're trying to get an audience excited. But those folk like myself in the workplace, we don't necessarily want that type of excitement. In fact,
Yeah,
I
exactly.
think I can do without that. And you ask the question, do you have to do that? And in some environments, they cultivate that. They cultivate walking over and underwater, so forth. But here's the thing. Once you get to sort of the top of that totem pole, you have the title, you basically cut and bruised everybody along the way. You got some cuts and bruises too. Then what? What happens then? Do you go to the next step? Do you start shooting people? Do you start throwing
Oh
people
no.
off a mountain? I mean, and that's the reality. You don't really think about how far are you willing to go. And that's why
Yes.
one of the things that I will tell you that I've always believed that's been sort of a badge of honor that I've worn in the workplace is my level of integrity. And, I talk about this in my book, Integrity When No One Is Watching. I
Hmm.
will, I, I cannot overemphasize to you, so many people can't say the same thing. And, and it's so funny when I think about one of the examples in my book that I talk about. I was working for one of these firms, and the person asked me to shred all of these documents. And I knew clearly that that was a problem. So I promptly went to my manager and said, is this something I should do? And, he kind of was like, well, if you don't want to work on a project, that's okay. And I said, well, I would prefer to not work on a project where I possibly am compromising myself as well as the company all in the process. So I did not work on that project anymore. And ultimately, the company that was undertaking these practices was audited and paid a significant fine because of those actions. But
Wow.
the thing that never went through my mind is, oh my God, I'm not going to have a job. I'm going to get fired. I was just thinking about, does this make sense? Do I really want to be able to sleep at night because of these behaviors? And I don't think a lot of professionals think about that until they're in that type of situation. And a lot of professionals probably would have proceeded and shredded those documents and not really thought about it and thought, well, okay, maybe I'll get away with it. Maybe it'll be okay. And they're not really thinking about the consequences. Then 5 or 6 years, lying in the bed, they're thinking, oh my God, I probably shouldn't have done that. I don't have those type of situations. You would think in my 30 plus years, I would have levels of integrity issues that may have presented itself. No, because in every instance, I can sleep at night with my decision. It may not have been the right decision, but I can sleep at night because I believe I was making the right decision based on the circumstances.
Yeah, that's great, and I wish a lot more people were like you, like in corporations
It's
today,
not
because
easy.
it isn't easy.
It's
No, it
so not
isn't.
easy because again, you may be in a situation where they tell you it's either my way or the highway. And again, when you're thinking about your mortgage, when you're thinking about
Oh, did I work at the same company with you? My way or the highway?
right, but when you're thinking about how I'm going to provide for my family, you're not really necessarily thinking about integrity. Well, people like me are, and the reason why is because it's important that at the end of the day, you send a message that you don't have to cheat, steal, and be deceptive in order to get ahead in the workplace. You just don't have, I don't believe you have to do that. Now, would I be a CEO if I had done some of those things? Probably not. I don't think so. Because I really do believe that a lot of folk that are in these higher positions, they didn't have to go through those thresholds of stealing and robbing Peter to pay Paul. They didn't have to do that. But there are those that have, and I think there are consequences associated with it. Because just like you cheated and lied, guess what? The person that's right behind you can do the same thing and may take your road down the line. And those are things that we just don't think about. It really is a domino effect, that whole thing
Right.
about, do unto others as they do unto you. And if you find yourself doing crazy stuff, it will come back to you. May not
Yeah. Have
happen on
you?
Monday, but it will eventually occur. And it's going to be one of those situations where you're not thinking about it. Oh my God, I can't believe that this is happening. Well, think about what you did a few years ago to that person.
Absolutely. And just think about it like this. It's if you look at it as a criminal lawyer would do if you went to trial. Did you do this? Did you shred those papers? And then you say, yeah, but he told me to, and he was my boss. And then he's
Right.
like, well, I didn't tell you that at all. I mean, you have to live with yourself. Just like I tell my kids, you can't get away from yourself. You are going to be with yourself for the rest of your life. If you don't like yourself, then you're going to have a hard time in this life.
Well, you are, and I think about a lot of books that are out there that are, encouraging people to, sort of unpeel the onion a different way, far as in the workplace, far as, fighting to get that promotion. This is what you do. This is how you do it. And I really wanted the real promotion to take a different spin. I really wanted anyone that reads this book to have clarity about their purpose and ownership of their development. I want the reader to stop waiting to be chosen and start choosing who they are becoming. And I got to say, taking self actualization and really investing in yourself is something that most of us simply don't do. We're so busy running, we're so busy trying to do all of these different things, but we're not taking the time out to invest in ourselves. And that's what this book is all about, your own self reflection and trying to figure out what makes the most sense for me. Because there are a lot of things that I wrote about in the book may not even be applicable, but I believe there's something in the book for everybody. Um, and I really believe it really is it's a call to action. It's a challenge to take ownership of how we show up, choosing positive energy over passive frustration, and in leadership over the status quo. So again, when I think about all of the possibilities, when I think about all of the things that I could be doing, I am just so glad that one day I said enough and I need to do this a little bit differently.
Yeah, that's very admirable. So you kind of answered my last question before we transition to the game, but I do want to say one thing. If somebody's out there listening right now and it's resonating with them, what is the absolute first step that they can take, the simple step to go in the right direction?
For me, it was taking a deep breath and sitting down and making a list of things that I want to do. Things that I'm thinking, I love to dream. I love wanting to, and my wife always is amazed because I'm one of those people that can go to sleep in like 5 seconds. As soon as I hit the pillow, I'm
Me
asleep.
too.
And a lot of it is because I'm really excited about what's going to happen to me. I love to dream about positive things, of course, about all of the different possibilities. Some people may want to dream about being rich and having, many mansions and all that other sort of thing. I just dream about just, really enjoying life and having fun and doing all that I can to get back to others. So I think the very, very first thing is to get in front of a mirror and take a look at yourself and start to think through, what am I doing? What do I want to become? And most people will probably say that's nothing. That's easy. It's not. When you start doing full self-reflection, when you do meaningful self-reflection, thinking about, what have I done for somebody else today? What have I done for myself? And then you take a step back and say, wow, I've lost so much time. And you have. And you can get some of that time back by really sitting down and being intentional about how you move forward.
I like that. I'm going to do that myself. Because I do fall asleep really fast, but there are some times when you just need to like reset again, just go back and reset. Even though you think you're going in the right direction, I think a lot of the things you said today helps people reflect and reset themselves. So I'm going to take that deep breath and then look at the things I want to do. I'm already doing a lot of fun things, but there may be other things.
Reset is just an opportunity to take a moment and do it differently. And I'm not really sure why that's such a bad word in a lot of people's vocabulary, but regrouping is what we all should be doing. And when I think about politics, what I am absolutely not a politician. And when I hear people that say things, for instance, that a politician has to, be on the straight and narrow, and they literally have to, if they say one thing, they have to follow it through, even if it's wrong. And my response is, I want my politicians to be nuanced. I want them to be in a situation where they may have looked at a situation, and then after they've learned and gained more information, they took a different position based on the new information they had. I don't want them to always feel like it got to be this way on the highway. And I think that's
I gotta toe
and
the
the
line this
problem with
way.
a
Yeah.
lot of us is that we've started these projects and we feel like if we don't see them through, that the world's going to come to an end. And I'm the first one to tell you that that project that you're working on, the earlier you stop it, especially if it's not going the direction that you want it to go in, the cheaper it will be in the long term.
Right. Well, this has been fabulous. I love talking to you. You're a really interesting person and very smart person. So,
Well, the pleasure's all mine. You've been amazing. You've been absolutely fun to interact with, and I'm sure this won't be the last time.
yeah, well, we're going to go play the game though now. We're
Absolutely.
transitioning.
Okay.
So, for those listening, here's the way it works. John has given me 3 headlines about his life so we can dig in a little bit deeper on him personally. And we're going to read those headlines. I'm going to guess which one 2 of them are true, one of them's a lie. I'm going to guess which one I think's the lie or the twisted truth. Then he's going to walk us through each of those stories. And then at the end, he'll reveal it to us. So I'm going to share my screen right now. This episode is sponsored by Rebel 180, the home of brave pivots and fresh starts. Rebel 180 is all about helping you rediscover what's possible when you stop settling and start listening to that little tug inside that says, life can be different. Whether you're navigating a career shift, dreaming about a new direction, or standing at the crossroads wondering if it's time for your own 180-degree turn, Rebel 180 is a reminder you don't need permission to change your story. Sponsor, we're stepping into the world of tech. Simple Socket Print, the lightweight, blazing fast label print solution designed for those who need reliability without the bloat. With version 1.5, you get instant printing in milliseconds, fully maintained print sequence, and automatic base 64 decoding, all without needing print driver installs. If you're running SQL Server 2016 or newer, Simple Socket Print 1.5 drops right in and gets to work. Keep your workflow simple. Keep your label printing fast with Simple Socket Print. Thank you to our sponsors. Headline number 1. This is, I don't even know. I can't even read this thing. John once caught 2 senior colleagues naked in an office after hours, and it permanently changed how he views power, risk, and leadership. It would change a lot more than that for me. Like, I wouldn't want to look at them at all. So that's headline number 1. Headline number 2, John's college roommate won $500,000 on a lottery ticket and gave John 20,000 because John had given him money toward that ticket. I hope your roommate did that. And then number 3, John helped a man experiencing homelessness secure a job, and it redefined what success actually means to him. Well, I'm going to guess. I was going to guess number 2, but I'm going to guess number 1 because I really hope that never happened. But okay. But you're going to tell us. So tell us about story number 1.
Story number 1 was about a situation where I was working like really late one night, and I was literally kind of just lounging through the halls, and I noticed a light was on in one of these offices. So I decided to see who was still on the floor. I opened the door and was stunned at what I saw. I couldn't unsee it.
I know.
Woo.
Did you work for these people?
I did. One of them was my manager.
Oh, okay.
So, needless to say,
HR.
needless to say, it was pretty crazy. Oh my God. Yeah. So let's just say when I see doors, whether they're open or closed, I don't do anything with them at work because I don't want to see what's behind the door.
Oh my gosh. I bet you got a lot of gifts after that.
Well, the good thing is it kind of resolved themselves because both of the persons eventually end up leaving the company, but I left before them, so I don't exactly know what happened to them, but it was crazy. But that person that was my manager, let's just say, never talked to with me again.
Hey, this is like it reminds me of that Coldplay concert. Have you seen that all over YouTube, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Where
But
the
and
lady
what just think about if it was during a time where people could pull out their because there were no I guess we did have mobile phones, but they were not at the level they are today. Could you imagine someone filming that? Oh God, that would be
Oh, I wouldn't.
awful.
Well, at least you didn't do that.
No.
Yeah. People are stupid when they do these things out in public
Yeah,
and they're just yeah, you're gonna get caught. All right, number 2, how was that roommate? Was he good to you?
that is so false.
Oh, you did not supposed to tell us.
I am
Okay.
so sorry. So sorry.
It's so easy to do.
It is so easy to do, and I caught myself. But this is one of those situations where my roommates, I don't think they would have gave me 5 cents, not alone $20,000. Uh, but um, but maybe one of them would have, but the other one not so much. But yeah, I just thought that was fun.
Yeah, it is kind of fun to think about, but I was gonna guess that one at first
You were,
that,
I
you know.
remember, and I kind of dissuaded you on yesterday not to choose that one. But the third one, this is what I do. I was in a situation where I saw a homeless guy, and he didn't even ask me for money or anything. And I saw that he was reading a book, and I said, "Oh, okay." And we engaged in a casual conversation, and I noticed that where I was parking at the time, he was always there. So I would see him, and we would exchange pleasantries. And one day I said, "You know what? Here's my card. How about we talk about how we can move you, beyond sort of the where you are?" And his circumstances were interesting. He was working a decent job. He got laid off and got involved in drugs, lost his family, lost his house, and so forth. And he was just trying to find his way back. And he was staying at the shelter where my office was located. And we just again disconnected. And every week I would actually go on my way to see him to see what was happening and so forth. And sure enough, after a period of time, he started to trust me, and I created his resume. I helped him to sort of get ready to interview for jobs, and he got back on track.
That's fantastic. That's really fantastic. And now in this day and age, the more I will like to do things like that, except for there's a lot of danger that people you see all the time. There's a
Sure.
lot of danger in just speaking to people that you don't really know what they're doing or where they're coming from. But that was quite bold and commendable for you to do that.
Well,
So,
well, it was, but I will say that I think because I saw this person every day, it made it pretty easy for me to feel as if I'm not going to get my head chopped off because I'm trying to be helpful. But you do have to,
mhm.
have a level of some type of discernment because you don't know. You don't know what you're going to encounter. But this was one of those situations that I thought it was okay. And if someone asked me the question, would I ever do that again? I absolutely wouldn't and actually have. Not necessarily to a homeless person, but I think where I get my most, I guess, pleasure, or I can't even think of a good term. I probably am at my best when I could do something for somebody else. I believe we all have been put on this earth to do just that. I think, if I get something out of it in the end, that's wonderful and fine, but it's all about what can I do to help somebody else?
Yeah, that's wonderful. Okay, well, I know everybody's enjoyed, hearing you and hearing about your book and all your ideas. I want to put up information on how people can contact you. You actually said that they should just go straight to your website, and that you've got a lot of data out there for them to take advantage of, which I think is wonderful. I'm going to go do that myself. And
Yeah.
you gave me a great quote. You want to talk about that?
The most important promotion you will ever earn is the one no one can give you. It begins the moment you stop waiting to be chosen and start choosing your own growth. I remember sitting down and when I was writing the book, and that came to me, and I just said, where did this come from? And it really was about, I've heard so many people call the workplace a war zone. And I believe that the workplace is actually a classroom. And I wrote this book, and I really hope it resonates with other people. But my biggest thing is to help people to stop chasing validation and start choosing their intentional growth. So when I think about this, I think about all of those times when I thought I was up for a promotion. I thought I was up for, the bigger office in a suite. And when I start to think through, does all of those things really matter at the end of the day? Is that what I want on my tombstone? The answer is absolutely not. I cannot tell you how many funerals that I've attended over the past, let's say, 2 years, and they were talking about somebody being, a beast in the workplace. People could care less about that. They're more interested in what kind of person, what kind of person were
Right,
you?
absolutely.
What type of contribution did you make in your community, to your family? Were you present for your family? A lot of people were not, and you're trying to figure out what you're going to talk about because this person was nowhere to be found because they were so busy working. And I never wanted that to be me. And I don't want that to be the people that potentially read my book. I want them to really think about what it's going to take to get them to make that turn and say, I do need to look at this differently.
Right. Right. Well, that's great. Well, thank you so much for being on the show.
It
And
was a pleasure.
but I want you to come back again. I hope you'll promise us to do that.
I
And
will.
then for those listening, I hope this resonated with you. And if it does, reach out to John because I'm sure he's
Yeah, yeah.
be more than happy to talk with you.
I would. And the other thing too is, in probably the next few days, I really will be officially, I call it, starting my YouTube page. And it's going to be all about, doing what I can to answer questions and to talk about some of these experiences and so forth, because I think it's important that I find different mediums to have a conversation. But one of the things that I probably would call my superpower is somebody send me an email, I will respond to them pretty quickly.
Oh,
And
great.
a lot of people, will make you wait for 2 and 3 days and so forth. If I see it, I will respond to it. That's just how I am.
That's fantastic. Yeah, so those listening, this is your Admiral of the Unexpected, and I hope you join us next week for another guest. And until then, I wish you all smooth sailing.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Thanks for joining me on Project Candor, where the doors are open, the stories are unexpected, and the treasure is always real. If today's episode made you laugh or think, follow the show and share it with your crew. Otherwise, I might just make you swab the deck. I'm Jeanne Anderson, your Admiral of the Unexpected. See you on the next voyage.